Today's daf we're going to be learning is Avodah Zarah daf Yud Tet. We started yesterday with the pasuk in Tehillim, in the very first pasuk of Tehillim. Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach b'asar v'sha'im u'b'derech hata'im lo amad u'b'moshav leitzim lo yashav. Right, we got to this because we were talking about how what the Romans were doing at the time, or the pagans, was called moshav leitzim, which again can be understood as frivolous behavior, but often also scorning of people. If you think about the gladiators and the bullfights, right, like a disregard for other humans, and this is something we should avoid. And then it said the second pasuk was Ki im b'torat Hashem chafzo u'b'torato yagei yom v'layla, because instead what you should be doing is learning Torah. So today we're going to get off on a whole big thing about learning Torah, but before that we're going to focus on one word in that first pasuk. Ashrei ha'ish, the man. Who is the man? Okay, obviously we read this pasuk as happy is the man who does this, as if it's any man, and presumably any woman. We'll even get to the Gemara is going to ask, and about a different, very similar pasuk than the second thing we're going to get to today is why does it say man and not woman? Which is interesting because usually just the masculine form in Hebrew includes males and females. But interesting, the Gemara asks why not women. What they really want to get to is why they use this word ish specifically. But the first is the man. And what man are we talking about? So starting from the bottom of Yuchet Amabed. Amar Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar Rabbi Yonantan ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach b'atzar v'sha'im ze Avraham Avinu. Okay, who's the man who really managed to do? Now we're going to see three things, because those are the three things in the pasuk. Didn't go with evildoers, didn't walk in the ways of sin, didn't stand in the ways of sinners, and didn't sit with the leitzim. So who are those three groups of people that were living in Avraham's time that he avoided? Shelo alach b'atzat anshei dor haflaga sherisha'im ayu shenemar hava nivneh lanu ir. Okay, they did something evil, which is they tried to build a city to the heavens, and Avraham was not with them. Now, we don't usually associate Avraham as living in the time of Dor Haflaga, but in Seder Olam Rabbah, actually it puts Avraham at age 48 when Dor Haflaga happened, and he stayed away from those people. Number two, Derech Hata'im Lo Amad. This is pretty simple. Shalo Amad Babidat Sodom. We know the people of Sodom in the time of Avraham, obviously, and they were Chata'im Ayu Shene'amar. Anshe Sodom Ra'im V'Chata'im La'Hashem Ma'od. The pasuk says they were Chata'im. U'moshav Leitzim Lo Yashav. This is a little more complicated, but Shalo Yashav B'moshav Anshe Plishtim, because also the Plishtim were around in his time, if you remember, and he didn't sit among them. How do we get to that they're Leitzim? How do we know they were leitzanim? Which means, again, scornful people. Shene'amar, vayihi ketov libam, vayomru kil'u l'shimshon v'yisachek lanu. Obviously, we're skipping ahead many generations to the Philistines in the time of Shimshon, in Sefer Shoftim. But they said, call Shimshon, and he'll yisachek lanu. L'sachek lanu, again, goes back to this moshav leitzim, leitzanu, playful negative, playful behavior. Okay, so that was Avraham. So that pasuk, the ha'ish, is a reference to Avraham. Now we're going to go to another pasuk which sounds very similar, but different. Ashrei ish yirei et Hashem. First of all, it doesn't say ha'ish. That's not what's important here. But who fears God. Okay, we're skipping ahead 111 chapters to chapter 112 in Tehillim. Okay, and it says there, Hallelujah, Ashrei ish yirei et Hashem b'mitzvotav chafetz ma'od. So, right, hallelujah, happy is the man who fears God and desires God's mitzvot. So now we're going to darshan the two parts of this pasuk. The first is Ashrei ish v'lo Ashrei isha. Why does it say not happy is the woman? Amar Rav Amram Amar Rav, Ashrei misha oset tshuva kshu ish. Okay, Yirei et Hashem, they understand here to be someone who returns to God, and when they're a man, meaning a man and not too old. Okay, what we mean is while they're still a man, while they still have their manness about them, and not once they get to be too old. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amar, Ashrei misha mitgaber al yitzro ki ish. Ish, usually we think of an ish as a warrior. Okay, nowadays we have female soldiers as well, but then it was less common, or maybe not even at all. And usually what they mean is the strong people are the men. So someone who could, now here they're talking not about physical strength, but inner strength to be able to conquer your evil inclination like a man. Okay, where obviously a woman can do that as well. They're saying like the strength of a man to defend himself against his enemies or conquer his enemies. Likewise, someone who can get over their evil inclination with that kind of strength. B'mitzvotav chafetz mod. Now we're going to darshan the second part of that pasuk. They desire God's mitzvot very much so. Rabbi Yonantan b'mitzvotav v'lo b'schar mitzvotav. Now, even though later we're going to get to what's the schar for learning Torah when we talk about the whole Torah sugya, but they're saying you should do mitzvot not for the sake of getting rewarded for the mitzvot, but this is someone who's chafetz mitzvotav. He wants just the mitzvot, not that he wants the reward for doing the mitzvot. Vaynu ditnan, famous Mishnah. This is what it says in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. That's why we all know it. Don't be like servants who serve their master just to get rewarded. Do it so as not to get rewarded. There's two different versions of how to read that line, but we're going to stick with the version it says here. Okay, now we're back to, again, interestingly, we talked about the chafetz mitzvotav, and now we're going to move back to Tehillim Parak Aleph, where it talks about is a man or woman desiring b'torat Hashem chafetzo. So now we're going to darshan this pasuk in many ways, and again I'm going to remind you the whole pasuk. So this is pasuk bet of Sefer Tehillim, the first chapter. Ki im torat Hashem chafetzo, one should desire the Torah of God, uve torato yehege yomam alayla. And in his Torah, he should delve into it day and night. Now, Torah, when we say his Torah, who are we referring to? It sounds like it's referring to God's Torah, right? We just said a minute ago it was God's Torah. Well, soon, just telling you this, we're not there yet, but we're going to darshan. Torah means your own Torah, the Torah of the person who we're referring to, and not the Torah of God. And we're going to darshan why is the beginning of the pasuk, it's God's Torah, or the beginning of the phrase, it's God's Torah, and by the end of the phrase, it's the person who learns it, it's their own Torah. It's going to be nice ideas about that. Okay, so from here we're going to get off all about learning Torah, what's the best way to learn Torah, how should one learn Torah, all sorts of what kind of Torah should one learn. So we're going to start off with what Torah should one learn. And we're going to get to an interesting halacha here. Ki im Torat Hashem chiftzeo, I'm a Rebbi. Ein adam lomei Torah, ela mimakom shelibo chafetz. People really only learn Torah if they desire that part of Torah to learn. Okay, there's a lot of things out there in Torah and a wide variety of topics. And one should choose to learn the Torah that they love learning. Now this, you might say, daf yomi, right? We have to learn everything. Sometimes we have dafim we'd rather not learn, or sometimes we have nesechtot that we don't exactly love. But you should be learning the things that you love. So on the one hand, you might say, well, maybe we shouldn't be learning all the Gemaras that we're learning. On the other hand, you could say, well, if you love learning Gemara, then that's what you should spend your time doing, right? And this is basically saying, why is that? Because where somebody desires, that's what they're going to learn the best. You're not going to learn something because you're forced to learn it. So we're going to even hear a story about this. So again, Rebbi says, "Ein adam lomei Torah ela mimakom shelibo chafetz," because it says, "Shneimar ki im b'torat Hashem chafetzo." Which means you should be desiring to learn Torah, and that's the Torah you should be learning. So Levi and Rabbi Shimon Rebbi, they were two students, Rabbi Shimon the son of Rebbi and his friend Levi. Yatve kamei to Rebbi. They were sitting before Rebbi, v'kapaske sidra, and they were learning Torah. Salik Sifra. They finished the book of Sifra, which is the Midrash Halacha. Levi Amar leitulam Mishlei. Levi says, let's learn Mishlei now. Like, bring a book of Mishlei. Rabbi Shimon Rebbi Amar leitulan Tehillim. And Rabbi Shimon Rebbi says, let's learn Tehillim. Kafya leLevi v'aitu Tehillim. So Rabbi Shimon Rebbi forced Levi to learn Tehillim, which he didn't want to do. Now, what did they do? They opened Sefer Tehillim, and what did they open to? The first chapter. Kimatu hacha. When they got to this pasuk, ki im b'torat Hashem chefzo, pasuk bet, perish Rebbi. So their teacher Rebbi starts explaining the pasuk. Eve Amar, and he said exactly what he said before. Ein adam lomei Torah ela mimakom shelibo chafetz. So Levi gets up. Amar Levi, Rebbi, natata lanu reshut la'amod. You gave me permission to get up and leave. Said, I don't want to be here. This isn't what I want to learn. Great story. They don't really say if he actually got up and left or not. Amar Rav Avdimi, right? Tried doing that in high school. You can see how much the teacher would love that. Oh, I don't want to be learning this. I'm just going to get up and leave. Amar Rav Avdimi bar Chama. Kol ha'osek b'Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu oseh lo chafetzav. A different drasha in this pasuk is anyone learning Torah, God will do whatever they desire. Okay? Ki im b'torat Hashem, or b'torah, right? If you're in Torat Hashem, chefzo, you get whatever you want. Shne'emar ki im b'torat Hashem chefzo. Amar Rava. Okay, now we're going to have, starting now, a slew of statements of Rava about how to learn Torah, what the best way to learn Torah is. Lo olam, so first he starts off with the same statement the Rebbi made a bunch of generations before him. Lo olam yomod adam Torah b'makom shelibo chafet, shne'emar ki im b'torat Hashem chefzo. Again, where your heart desires, that's what you should be learning. Ve'amar Rava, b'tchila nikret al shmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what I told you before. First, it's called God's Torah when you start learning. Ulevasof nikret al shmo. In the end, it becomes your own. It's a beautiful idea. Shne'emar b'torat Hashem chefzo. Right? If you do that right, first it's Torat Hashem, u'b'torato yageh yomam v'layla. In the end, it will be your own Torah. I was thinking about how some people don't like writing in Sfarim, and some people like writing in Sfarim. It becomes their own, right? When you write in a Sefer, it means it's my Sefer. And there's something about feeling this ownership over Torah. V'amar Rava, la'olam yomad adam Torah v'achar kach yehegeh. Another drasha in this pasuk. It's interesting. Rava, right? Normally we say you can't darshan two things for one pasuk, but this isn't halacha. This is, you can feel free to darshan whatever you want, Rava is saying, right? I can learn so many things about how to learn Torah from this pasuk. You should first learn Torah, then achar kach yehegeh. This is a good promo for Daf Yomi. First, learn the Torah. Okay, superficially, you won't understand it yet. Then delve in. The second stage is delving into it. Because again, what does it say? Shne'emar, b'torat Hashem. First you should be in Torat Hashem. Get Torat Hashem. V'hadar, and then after, v'torato yehegeh. Okay, for all the promos of Daf Yomi, just wait. We're going to get to all the negatives also. Ve'amar Rava, la'olam ligres inish. Okay, first, this is really Daf Yomi, right? Get the girsa, get the whole thing, conquer it. Va'af agav demishkach, even if you're going to forget it. Okay, I know how many bunch of people complain they don't remember anything they learned. Ve'hadar v'torato yegeh. After you've seen everything, then you can start delving in. Then at least you have perspective, you have understanding. You can start really delving into it. Now, where does he get this from? He's going to start quoting other psukim now, Rava. So, Shene'emal, Garsa Nafshi L'Ta'ava. Okay, this is from Tehillim, Kuf Yutet. Garsa K'tiv V'lo Kativ Tachana. Ligros, something is to cut it up, but into big chunks. Litchon is to make it floury, right? Really, really fine. So, it says ligros, to grind it, which is the bigger pieces, which means first just break it up into big pieces. Only at a later stage can you grind it really finely and really get into the nitty-gritty. Rava brought a contradiction. K'tiv al gapei, uktiv al kisei. Okay, these are psukim from Mishlei Tet. It says, Shalchana rotet tiklai, she sends her young maidens or young women, al gapei meromei karet, on the wings of the heights there. And it says, Barosh Muromim, V'yashva lepetach beita, al kisei muromei karet. And then it says she's sitting in the entrance to her house on the chair in muromei karet, whatever that muromei karet is. So first there's al gapei, which is kind of like on the wings or up above. And then there's al kisei, which is grounded in the ground. So, right, in a chair. So al gapei, k'tiv al kisei. Bitchila al gapei ulevasof al kisei. Okay, there's many different interpretations what this is. But at first you're above. Okay, now if you take the wing analogy, if you fly above, what this means is when you learn from different people, and then in the end you find your chair, like where you want to be, right? But the way you learn Torah at first is to kind of be above, maybe gather from different people. That's one way of understanding it. Also, they say maybe when you're first learning, you're not in a stable place. You're kind of up there hovering. At a certain point, you come into a stable place where you're in a chair. K'tiv b'rosh meromim, u'k'tiv alei darech. Same idea here. It says up in the heights, and then it says on the path. So, b'tchila b'rosh meromim, first you're up high, u'levasof alei darech. Then you're on a path, right? But when you're up above, you're not really on any sort of path. But when you're down, you're on a path. U'larami k'tiv shtei mayim miborecha, u'k'tiv nozlim mitoch be'erecha. Ula says, it says in one pasuk, drink water. Now, water is Torah, right? Drink water from the pit. And then it says, drink water from the well. Now, the well comes from water that's flowing, and the pit comes from standing water. B'tchila shtei miborecha. At first, your water is is, now when something's standing water, there's a beginning and an end, right? It's a very small amount and it's all contained. That's how when you learn Torah in the beginning. But once you get into it and you really, right, you realize it's this, either you realize or you can appreciate the water that's flowing, and it's just, the Torah is endless. Amar Rava, Amar Rav Schora, Amar Rav Huna. Mai dechtiv hon mehevel yimat v'kovetz al yad yarbeh. This is the sugya that doesn't exactly promote Daf Yomi style learning. Okay, if you make tons of money from nothingness, it will get lost. But if you collect a little bit here and there, you will amass a huge wealth. And this is basically saying, don't try to amass huge amounts of Torah all at once, but learn a little bit at a time, review it till you really have it down pat, and then go on to the next. Review it till you have it down pat, and then go on to the next. And then you'll really be able to gain a lot of Torah. That's the explanation. If you do your Torah bundles, big bundles all at once, it will end up disappearing. But if you do a little bit at once, right, you could say Daf Yomi is that. It's a little bit at once, one daf a day. Many of us view one daf as a lot of information. Amar Rava, Yade Rabbana lahamilta ve'avrei. Rava says a great statement. The rabbis know this, but they do it anyway. Okay, they amass large amounts of material without necessarily remembering them, doing the proper chazara. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Ana avidita v'kiyem biadi. I follow this, and my Torah stuck with me. Okay, so even though Rava said some of the rabbis didn't, he said, I stuck with this. I did it in this way. I was able to amass. Now, you could say Daf Yomi also. There's cycle 1 is the first, getting it, little by little. Cycle 2 is the review. So it's not like it's all bad. Amar Rav Shizbi Mishmei Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. My dechtiv lo yachroch rimiyat sedo. Yachroch is to roast. Now, what it really is saying is the one who captures animals with trickery will not end up roasting their food. Okay, so, but the way they define the darshan, like yachroch means to roast. But they say it's what we call an abbreviation, a notrikon in Hebrew, for lo yichyeh v'lo ya'arich yamin. The yud chet is yichyeh, the roch is ya'arich. You will not live and you will not have long days, sayad haramai, if you capture with trickery. Now what this is trying to say is, if you make yourself look like you learn a lot of Torah, but kind of trick people, because you're just learning a ton, but you really don't know anything, and you use it to kind of trick people into thinking you're a big Talmid Chacham, then you will not yachroch, you will not yichyeh, and you will not yarich yamim, you will not live, and you will not have long days. Rav Sheshet Amar, Tzayad Harama Yachroch. He actually views this as a positive thing. Okay, that Rashi explains it like this. Specifically, will be Yachroch. Now, meaning you will benefit from what you do, and that's what Rashi says here. Kach mishalomeh v'gores me'at ma'at u'mechazer alav pamim arbeh ad sheshagor befiv talmudo mitkayem. And what it's saying is what? Someone who gathers a lot of food, even in trickery, or I'm not sure how he really defines the trickery here, but what? They won't enjoy and roast their food? Of course they will. So what he's saying, right, the lo yachroch is what? He won't enjoy what he does. So we're basically saying here, if you gather your tzayid, you hunt a lot of Torah, you will obviously benefit from what you captured, right? What you caught, so to speak, what you learned. Ki'ata Rav Dimi Amar Mashal Adam Shetzad Sipurim. Says the way we learn, it's like the way we hunt birds, where we capture birds. Now, if you imagine you go and you catch birds, and you put the bird down, and then you go catch another one. You put the bird down, and you catch another one. What's going to happen? Every time you go to catch another bird, the bird you caught is going to fly away. So the way to capture birds and get a whole bunch of them is to mishaber knafesh or rishona. If you break the wings of one of them, the first one you get, kulam mitkaimot biyado. In other words, if as you go along, every time you catch a bird, you spend the time to break the wing instead of just say, let me capture more, and they're just going to keep flying. You can get the analogy. If you just keep learning Torah without really conquering it, then it's just going to go, you're going to keep getting more, but what you learned in the first place is going to disappear. So if you break each one at a time, you'll have them all. If not, you'll lose them. Okay. We're not fully finished with the Torah discussion, but that's the end of that pasuk, basically. We got there from the Ti'im Torah Hashem Chavtzo, B'Torah Tehu again Mambalayla. Now we're going to get to the next pasuk in Tehillim. So we're in chapter 1, verse 3. Vaya ke'et shatul al pagei mayim. Okay, and then you will be, if you learn Torah like this, you will be like a tree that's planted, although we're going to see shatul is a little different than planted. Al pagei mayim, by the streams of water. Asher piryo yitem b'ito, that fruits will come in their proper time. V'aleu lo yibol, and the leaves won't dry out. V'kol ashrei yaseh yatzliach, and everything they do, they will be successful. Okay, we will continue to darshan all the different parts of this pasuk in the next section. Vaya ke'et shatul al pagei mayim. Amar debei Rabbi Yonantan ke'et shatul v'lo ke'et natua. Etz natua is a tree that I planted. Etz shatul is a tree that I replanted. I moved from somewhere else. It says if you learn Torah from one person, you will not see a siman bracha. You want a replanted tree that came from somewhere else. You want to get different opinions, different viewpoints, different ways of learning. Amarlu Rav Chisda l'Rabbanan. So Rav Chisda said to his rabbis, his students, Bi'ina de'em l'chumilta. I want to tell you something. This halacha, this drasha of Rabbi Yonantan. But I'm worried you're all going to leave my Beit Midrash and go somewhere else. It's not really good for marketing purposes. Right? If you learn from one person, you're not going to see siman bracha in your Torah. It really means your Torah is not going to survive because it's just one opinion you're getting. It's interesting the way they view the importance of the diversity of opinions. Shavku va'azal kamei de Rava. So they left him and they went in front of Rava. They left the Beit Midrash. Amar lahu, and then he said to them, no, hanimile svara. That's when you get to the stage of really delving in and thinking about it. Aval gemara merav achad adif. But when you're talking about the gemara, about first, and this is what we said, the first stage is just conquering and learning the girsa, learning the words. That's better to get from one person. Kihechi, as we move to Amud Bet, dilo lipalub lishane. So this gets confusing. Different people have different lishane, different lishonot, different versions of the text, different versions of the halacha. First learn one way. Get that way down pat, and then you can start learning if there's other opinions and thinking about it in other ways. Al pagei mayim. Okay, so now we're back to that pasuk. So this was the Eitz shatul, which is learn from other people, but really first stage is get it really clear on from one person, and then you can start learning from other people. And then it says, Eitz shatul, what? Al pagei mayim. Now, plagim are kind of different streams, like as if they're coming out in different directions. So, Amar Rabbi Tanchum bar Chanilai, Lo'olam yishalesh adam shnotav, shlish b'mikra, shlish b'mishnah, shlish b'tamuz. We learned this elsewhere, and it actually didn't come from this pasuk then. But now we're going to learn it that you should split your days into 3. A third you should learn Torah, a third you should learn Mishnah, and a third you should learn Talmud. To which they ask the obvious question, okay, so I'm going to start calculating. How many years will I live? How many years should I spend on Torah? How many years on Mishnah? How many years in Torah? Well, mi yadeinish kamachai, what? Does a person know how long they're going to live to know how to divide their days? Ki ka'amrinam biyome. So Rabbi Tanchum said, what I meant was each day should be divided into 3. You should divide how you learn. If you remember the famous Gemara there says, the Bavli has everything in it. So you should learn the Bavli because it's got the 3 things, and by doing that, you learn all 3 in one day. Asher piryo yitem b'ito. So now they say, right, the fruits will come in their proper time. Amar Rava, im piryo yitem b'ito. No, it said the fruits will come in their right time, and the leaves won't dry up. Now they're going to say that those 2 are dependent on each other. Im piryo yitem b'ito v'aleu lo yibol. If you give your fruits in their proper time, then the leaves won't dry. What this means is, well, again, different interpretations. If Rashi says, if yikba itim l'Torah, then aleu lo yibol, if you set time for Torah. Other people say, if you learn Torah in order to do mitzvot, then your Torah your leaves won't dry up. V'im lav, and if not, ala lomed, here's very strong, harsh for the teacher. Not only the one who learns for the, let's say for the wrong reasons, or not to do mitzvot, or doesn't learn, then ala melamed ve'ala melamed, and the one who taught them. So if you're the teacher of someone, who doesn't do it for the purpose of kiyum mitzvot. Alehem katuv omer lo ken harashaim ki im kamotz asher tidfenu ruach. Now this is the next pasuk in Tehillim, Parak Aleph, pasuk 4. This is not like the Rishaim. The Rishaim are not in that way, because what's going to happen with the Rishaim, and now they're saying, if you don't do it in this way, that to eat the fruits, meaning, what's the point of learning Torah? It's to get to kiyum mitzvot. If you're not going to eat the fruits of your learning, then you're going to be like the Rishaim, that like the motz, that's the chaff, that basically goes flying in the wind. Your Torah is going to be like that. Useless. Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav. My dechtiv ki rabim chalalim. Now we're quoting a totally different pasuk. It's a pasuk of Mishlei, chapter 7. Ki rabim chalalim hipila. And the continuation is va'atzumim kol harugeh. Okay, we don't know who this pasuk is referring to. We're going to say so in a minute what the drasha is. Because there are many bodies that this person brought down, meaning caused the death of many, va'atzumim, and it is great kol harugeh, all the people that this person killed. So now we're going to see, first of all, it says the same thing twice, so it must be talking about two different people. What is this? So, Ki rabim chalalim mipila zet talmid shelo higia lahora'ah umoreh. This is a student who did not get to the stage where they should be teaching yet. Now, teaching doesn't necessarily mean teaching a shir. Teaching means to teach halacha, to be telling people what they should do halachically. They could kill people, because if they're not really at the stage yet, they could be teaching people the wrong things and get them punished. This is the flip side of that coin. This is someone who is at the stage where they should be teaching halacha, and they don't. They refrain from it teaching halacha, and that's also causing people to be killed. Va'ad kama, what's the age? They assume right now it's an age. What does it mean? La'agia lahora'ah? Ad arba'im shnin. You have to be 40 years old to be able to teach people, like to paskin, basically, is what they mean here. To which the Gemara asks, what do you mean it's dependent on age? Rava orei, and Rava was known that he died at age 40. So, how is he teaching halacha if he died at age 40? He must have been teaching halacha earlier. Hatam b'shavin, that's because he was equal in wisdom to the main rabbis of his community. And therefore, again, it's not just an age thing, it's also a wisdom. A certain amount of knowledge. Va'alehu lo yibol. Amarav achabar ad amarav. Va'amrela amarav achabar abba amarav hamnuna amarav. Okay, so either he quoted Rav directly or he quoted Rav Hamnuna, who quoted Rav. Shafilus. So what's this alehu lo yibol? Now the leaves are the insignificant part of the tree. I mean, obviously it's a sign of health of the tree, but you don't really need the leaves so much. So they say, afilu sichat chulin shel talmidei chachamim srichat Tamuz. You should be learning not just the Torah from the Torah scholars, you should even be listening to their non-Torah conversations, because even from that you can be learning. Even from their leaves. Shenemar aleu lo yibol. Their leaves won't dry up, which means even their leaves have what to gain from. Okay, now we're getting to the last part here, which is, what is the reward for all this? Kol asher yaseh yatzliach. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, right, that's the end of that pasuk. Everything they do will be successful, like the Midas touch. This is such an important lesson that it's written in the Torah, it's written again in the Nevi'im, and it's written a third time in the Ketuvim. And these psukim all say the same thing, which is, if you learn Torah, you will profit from, monetarily, right? Your investments will succeed. Okay, we all know this is not always true. There's very poor Torah scholars. What do we do with that? Well, again, this is the same thing as the flip psukim. When we say, if you do this, you'll rot, you'll die and you'll be killed and this will happen to you, bad things, and it doesn't always happen, right? This is just like there, they use scare tactics. Here they use encouraging tactics, right? Basically, don't worry about your money. Everything will be good for you. If you do this, this is very important. It's showing this is a value to us. Katuv b'Torah, dichtiv. Ushmartem et divrei habrit hazov asitem otam. Okay, you should keep the divrei habrit. This is in the end of Sefer Dvarim. Leman taskilu et kol asher tasun. So you should be successful in everything you do. Shanoi b'nevi'im, says it a second time in the prophets. Dichtiv lo yamush hatef Torah hazov mipicha v'agita bo yomam v'layla. This is from the beginning of Sefer Yoshua. Leman tishmor la'asok kechol ha'katubo. In order, right, you should be learning Torah all day and all night, in order to observe the Torah and everything it says in it. Ki at tatzliach et drachecha v'at taskil. This will help you succeed in the way you're going, and you will be wise. So succeed, meaning financially. O mishulash b'ktuvim, the third time in the ktuvim, dichtiv, ki im b'torat Hashem cheftzeo v'torateo yigem v'layla. That's our pasuk. Vayake et shatul al palgei mayim asher priyo yitem bitov alei lo yibol v'chol asher yaseh yatzliach. So they quoted pasuk bet, which is learn Torah, and then the next pasuk said, and then you will be successful. Machriz Rabbi Alexandri, he made the following announcement. Here's our last part of this section. Man bai chai, man bai chai. Who wants to live? Who wants to live? Okay, everybody's always looking for the secret of how to live a longer life. So obviously, kanufa atu kule alma gabe. They gathered and the entire world came to him. Okay, obviously they don't mean the entire world, but everybody who heard him said, oh, we're coming to hear this. How will we live? And he says to them, Amar lehu, Mi ha'ish hachafetz chayim, right? Very famous pasuk. We say it in our davening on Shabbat, Tehillim lamed dalet. Who is the person who seeks life? Right? What does it say? Notzor l'shoncha mera uspatecha midaber mirma. You should keep your mouth from saying bad things, and your sfatayim from saying bad things. Basically, watch your tongue. Very, very valuable lesson. But he continues, or the Gemara says, not sure if he continues or the Gemara, Shema Yomar Adam. Now you might say, Natsarti l'shoni mera usfatam midaber mirma. Okay, well, I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say bad things. Elech be'et gareh b'shena. Maybe I'll just go to sleep, right? Because who needs to do anything? As long as I don't say bad things, I will get long life. Well, right, very similar to how we ended yesterday's daf, right? So you're not going to go to Moshav Litzim. Okay, so go to sleep. And, it's better when you go to sleep, less likelihood that you're going to say something bad. Kind of protects you from saying bad things. Well, Talmud Lomau, what's the next pasuk after that? Sur mera v'asei tov. Now, sur mera, right? But stay away from bad, v'asei tov. It doesn't say go to sleep. It says do good things. Ve'ein tov ela Torah, shenemar ki lekach tov natati lachem, Torati al ta'azofu. And here you see, the Torah is called the lekach tov, the Torah is tov. What it means is go learn Torah. Again, the same message as we had yesterday. We're kind of ending this section with the way we started it, about the importance of learning Torah. And this all came up because we started with all the activities of the Roman pagans that we should avoid, and the antidote to that is learning Torah. And then we got into, well, how do we learn Torah, and in what way should we learn Torah, and what type of Torah we should be learning. And we had all sorts of comments about the importance of learning Torah, the importance of being around Torah scholars, the importance of knowing your place and realizing whether you should be teaching, you shouldn't be teaching, and all sorts of other interesting things about learning Torah. Now we're going to move back to the Mishnah. We were up to this section in the Mishnah about Higia la Kippah. What are the things you're allowed to build with the Gentiles you can't build? We said one of the things you could build was bathhouses. But when you get to the Kippah, which was this area where it held idols, Makom Shma'amidim bo Avodah Zarah, that was where they had the idols, you can't build with them. Okay, you can't build that area. Now, what will we call this? Mishamshei Avodah Zarah, right? It's an area, you're not building the idol, you're building the area where they put the idol in. So, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Yonantan, Im banas charo mutar. You shouldn't build it, but if you did, you can benefit from the salary that you received. Because, right, why? Well, the Gemara says, Pshita, obviously. Why is he even telling us this? Obviously you could benefit, because it wasn't the idol itself. It was Mishamshei Avodah Zarah. Mishamshei Avodah Zarah, right, it's just something that serves the idol. Now, Mishamshei Avodah Zarah is something that serves an idol. Bein l'Rabbi Yishmael, bein l'Rabbi Akiva, einam asurim ad sheyeavdu. Now, there's a big machlok at Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva, which we'll see inside in 1 minute. It really comes up in Daf Nun Aleph Amud Bet. But it's this machlok about when idols become idols that are forbidden to benefit from. Is it when you create them, or is it once they're worshipped? And the debate really, it flips. Each of them have the opposite opinion about whether it's for a Jew or for a Gentile. Okay, one says if it's for a Jew, then it's forbidden immediately. And if it's for a Gentile, only once they worship it. And the other says the opposite. If it's for a Gentile, it's forbidden immediately. If it's for a Jew, it's forbidden only once they worship it. Okay, so that's the machlok of Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva. But notice, the machlok is only about Mishamshei Avodah Zarah. Now, obviously, this hasn't been worshipped yet. You're building it. So, He's saying their machloket is only about the idol itself. But things that serve the idol, of course nobody thinks it's going to have any sort of, idol worship sanctity to it. Again, I hate calling that word using sanctity, but it's the parallel, right? What they give sanctity, there's no importance to it until it's actually worshipped. So this is quite obvious that you can benefit from the salary you get for this, even though you shouldn't do it. So he says when Rabbi Elazar quoted Rabbi Yochanan is saying if you build it, the salary is permitted was actually talking about the idol itself. So now the question is going to be, wait, this is only going to fit with one opinion. Now obviously this was an idol they were making for the Gentiles. So Hani Chalaman Amar, you could say, I could see why you could say you could get rewarded, you can gain the benefits from the salary. It's not forbidden to benefit from if you hold Avodah Zarah Shel Yisrael Asura Miyad V'Shalovei Kochavim Ad Shte'aved. This is Rabbi Yishmael's opinion. That if you're making it for a Jew, it's forbidden immediately. But an idol made for a Gentile is only forbidden once they worship. So therefore you can benefit from the salary you made because this was for a Gentile and it's not yet forbidden. Shapir, then it makes sense. But El Laman Damar, but according to Rabbi Akiva, you can understand this halacha. Damar Shalovei Kochavim Asura Miyad. He says if it's a Gentile, right? If it's a Jew, only once it starts being worshipped. But if it's for a Gentile, it's going to be forbidden immediately. So this should be forbidden immediately, and you shouldn't be able to get any salary from it. Ma'i Kalamemer. So how are you going to explain it according to Rabbi Akiva? Ella Amarab Barula Lo Nischa Ella B'Makosh Acharon. It says what we're really talking about is the final blow that makes this an idol. Now I'm going to read the whole thing to the end because when I'm going to start explaining, I'm explaining from the last words. So even if you don't understand, don't worry, I'll explain it all. Avodah Zarah man kagarim la. What makes this Avodah Zarah? Gemar malacha, when it's completed. Ve'emat havi gemar malacha, and when does that happen? And if we say, like Rabbi Akiva, that a pesel that you make, an idol for a Gentile, is going to be forbidden when it's created. When is that? When you give it the final blow, right? It's going to be forbidden to benefit from at that final blow. Until the final blow, it's not an idol. Okay. Well then, b'makosh acharon, right? That's when it is. But makosh acharon lebeshav pruta. But there's no value to that last. How much is it worth when you give that last final blow? It's actually not worth anything, right? It's less than it's worth a little bit, but it's very little. That one little action. Ve alma kasavar must be held. Yeshna l'schirut mitchila v'ad sof. Okay, you really need these last words to understand everything. There's a machloket, and we saw this already for sure in Bava Metzia, maybe in other places, about how does schirut work. Okay, this is either renting an item or hiring a craftsman or craftswoman to do something for you. So if I hire someone to do something for me, is it viewed that, okay, I'll give you the other opinion. When you finish the job, you get paid for the whole job, and it's as if, right, I'm paying you at the end for the fact that I have a finished product. That's kind of the way I would look, right? Mostly we would look at it. It's more intuitive. But there's another, theoretically, you could say this is intuitive also. You're basically paying someone for their work from the very moment they started. And it's as if, like, the clock starts ticking, and every minute they work, it's like someone who works, every minute they work is basically valued at something. So that means that if you build this idol for the Gentiles to put in their bathhouse, when you work, you're basically making a salary every moment of the job. And then what's going to be forbidden to you? That very last blow and the money you're making for that. Now, the money you're making for that is not even a pruta, so it's not even significant. So therefore, all the salary you make, you can actually benefit from, because the idol is not yet an idol. So even according to Rabbi Akiva, who says that idol is going to be an idol at the last blow, but only at the last blow. Remember, Rabbi Yishmael is going to say it's only an idol once you worship, when it's worshipped by the Gentiles. So for sure, you could get paid and benefit from it. But even Rabbi Akiva, you could get paid because it's all about the final blow. New Mishnah. Ve'ein, we're going to get much more into this Mishnah tomorrow, okay? But we'll just start reading it. Like I said, this Masechet has tons of Mishnayot that happen to start at the end of pages. Ein osim tachshitim la'avodah zarah. You can't make jewelry for an idol. Katlaot unizamim v'tabaot. I like this word katlaot. It's a choker. And why is it? Right? If you think of the word choker, it sounds like you're choking someone, and katla is to kill someone. So it's a choker, right? So it sounds like a harsh word, but so is choker. We just don't think about it because we're used to the word. So a choker, nizamim, tabaot, okay, nose rings, rings, all these things you can't make. Rabbi Eliezer Omer b'sachal mutal. If you make money, you get paid for it, it's permitted. This is a very strange thing. If it's forbidden, then why would you be able to get paid for it? Some people don't have this girsa at all. Okay, it's a little unclear how to read this part of the Mishnah. And there's different girsot, like a lot of different girsot here, just so you know, to deal with the fact that it's a little complicated. The next part has to do with this Isur of Lo Techanem. It's actually the subject of Daf Mishalahem this week. Very fascinating topic. We're going to talk about it more tomorrow, which is the prohibition to sell land to Gentiles. Usually the topic is in Israel. Okay, we'll talk about this more tomorrow. Just so you can't sell them land, you also can't sell them anything attached to the ground. It's just an extension of don't sell them land, don't sell them things attached to the ground like trees. But once you cut the tree down, then you can sell it to them because it's no longer attached to the ground. Right? The fact that it was attached doesn't matter. But Rabbi Yehuda Omer, mocheru amanat lakots. He allows you to sell a tree if you're selling it for the Gentile to cut it down. Then you're allowed to sell it. Okay, the reason for this prohibition we're going to get into tomorrow. So what we did today is we started with these. The main thing we did today is darshan those first 4 psukim of Sefer Tehillim, Tehillim Aleph, about the things you shouldn't do, which we mostly darshan yesterday, of being in the Roman vibe of, doing all their activities that are basically, again, if we go with Leit Sanim, is scornfulness, also scornful toward people and all that. Right? We understand it's not just waste of time, but also there was a lot of negative treatment of humans that was going on there. And what's the antidote? Basically, what should we be doing? Not just middle, like, okay, so don't do that, but don't do anything. But no, we should be learning Torah. And then we talked about all the different ways, how, what, that, and we reviewed that already, so we're going to stop there. And we ended with also this idea of watch your speech. That's also really important. But also, asay tov. Don't just say, okay, I watch my speech, I can go to sleep. Same idea, but I should learn Torah instead. And then we ended with going back to this Mishnah and trying to understand this kippah and really this statement of Rabbi Yochanan that you can get salary for it. How can you get salary for it? And we had to, or it's obvious you get salary if it's just misham shem because they haven't worshipped it yet. There's something wrong with that, even though down the road they're going to use it for idol worship. But if it's the idol itself, then we had to explain how that fit in with Rabbi Akiva's opinion, which we managed to explain it with based on this approach about schirut and how schirut works. And from there we ended with the Mishnah about jewelry of Gentiles and selling items that are attached to the ground to Gentiles and the prohibition to do that. With that, we'll finish for today. Wishing everyone a good day.